Okay, so we're diving right in to something a lot of you have been asking about, natural sleep aids,
Yeah.
specifically teas and herbs.
Right.
And you guys out there listening have actually sent in a ton of great info.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to go through, but that's our job today,
That's why we're here.
to kind of pull out the good stuff
Exactly.
so all of us can sleep better at night.
And for those watching us on the Detox Health YouTube channel,
Yeah, make sure you head over there for even more
yeah, tons more.
health and wellness content.
Yeah, so basically you want to know the quick and dirty version of like what works to get a good night's sleep.
Right, like no BS, just the facts.
And that's exactly what we're going to do.
All
We've
right.
got articles from Healthline Medical News today and some details from WebMD as well.
Perfect.
And what we really want to figure out is which of these natural options have the strongest evidence
Yes.
behind them.
Okay, so let's start with something cozy.
Okay.
Bedtime tea.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something just so soothing about having a warm mug of tea before bed.
Absolutely.
And Healthline talks about this a bit. They explain that these bedtime teas are caffeine-free,
Right.
so they're not going to keep you up.
Of course.
And they often have herbs like lavender, chamomile, passionflower.
You know, those classic sort of calming,
Yeah, exactly.
relaxing scents.
Yeah. So Healthline points out that having this kind of nightly ritual can be really beneficial because it signals to your body that it's time to wind down and go to sleep.
The power of routine.
Exactly. And the warmth and the aroma of the tea can be so comforting.
Oh, for sure.
So it seems like a good option for people who maybe have some mild sleep issues.
Right, for like falling asleep or something.
Exactly.
But Healthline is careful to point out that it's not going to be a miracle cure
Right.
for severe insomnia.
Yeah.
It's more of a supplemental thing, you know?
Yeah, like part of a whole routine.
Exactly. And the scientific research on this is a bit mixed.
Yeah.
And you also have to be mindful of not drinking too much liquid before bed.
Right.
You don't want to be getting up all night to go to the bathroom.
That's true.
That defeats the purpose.
So how long before bed should you actually stop drinking tea?
Well, Healthline recommends at least 2 hours.
Okay, so like 8 p.m. tea time. Yeah. If you're trying to be asleep by 10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That gives your body time to process everything.
That makes sense.
And you know who really needs to be careful with this stuff?
Ooh.
Pregnant or breastfeeding people
Okay.
and anyone on medication.
Got it.
They should always talk to their doctor first.
So that's really important.
Yeah, you don't want any unexpected interactions.
Right. And some of these teas, they can have unregulated supplements in them.
Right. Like you don't always know what
You're getting.
Yeah. And Healthline mentions that there can even be side effects from some of the herbs,
Oh, really? Like what?
like headaches, dizziness, even skin reactions.
Wow.
Yeah, things like valerian root have been linked to those kinds of effects.
So definitely talk to your doctor first.
Definitely.
Okay, so what about how much tea you should actually drink?
Well, they say to start with just 1 cup,
Oh, okay.
see how you feel, and adjust from there.
Oh,
Because too much fluid before bed can lead to, nighttime urination,
Right.
which they call nocturia.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Not fun at all.
So 1 cup and then play it by ear.
Exactly.
Now, what about anxiety and insomnia?
Okay, so Healthline says some teas with lavender, passionflower, or valerian might help with anxiety,
Okay.
which could make it easier to fall asleep.
Right.
But they're not a cure for insomnia.
So it's not like popping a sleeping pill,
No.
but it could be like a piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Part of a healthy sleep routine.
Okay, so what's the final word on bedtime teas from Healthline?
Well, the evidence is kind of weak and inconsistent right now.
Okay.
And a lot of the research has been on extracts or supplements, not the teas themselves.
Right,
So we need more studies that look at the teas specifically.
That makes sense.
But let's get into some of the specific teas they talk about.
Okay.
First up, magnolia tea.
Magnolia tea.
Yeah, it's made from the bark, buds, and stems of the magnolia plant.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's been used in traditional medicine as a sleep aid.
Cool.
And the key compounds are honokiol and magnolol.
Honokiol and magnolol.
Yeah, they're thought to interact with receptors in the brain that promote calmness.
So they kind of like chill you out.
Exactly. And there was one older study where postpartum women drank magnolia tea for 3 weeks.
Okay.
And they reported improvements in both depression and sleep quality.
That's great.
But Healthline points out that we need more recent human research on this.
Yeah, we need to see if that holds up.
Exactly.
Okay, what's next?
Low-caffeine green tea.
Now, I know regular green tea can kind of give you a boost.
Right, it's got caffeine.
So low caffeine is key here
Absolutely.
for bedtime purposes.
Definitely.
But it's interesting because some studies have actually linked low caffeine green tea to better sleep quality,
Right?
less stress, and less fatigue.
Wow.
compared to the regular caffeinated kind.
That's surprising.
I know, right?
So what's the difference?
Well, they think it might be because of a compound called EGCG.
EGCG.
Yeah, it's a powerful antioxidant in green tea, and they think it might have these calming effects
Interesting.
on the nervous system.
Huh. So maybe switch to decaf green tea in the evening.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what else is on the list?
Chamomile tea,
Ah, classic.
that floral scent. I feel like everyone associates it with relaxation.
It's so calming.
And for good reason.
Right.
It's made from the chamomile plant, which has been used forever for its sedative properties.
Like it's a tried and true remedy.
Yeah, and a review of multiple studies found that chamomile can actually improve overall sleep quality.
Cool.
But it didn't seem to have a huge impact on people with insomnia.
So maybe not for the chronic cases,
Exactly.
but for like general relaxation.
Exactly. And there was another study with postpartum women who drank chamomile tea, and they saw some benefits, but only for a short period of time,
Like how long?
just 2 weeks.
Oh, okay, so short term.
Yeah. And Healthline, again, mentions that there's not a ton of research overall,
Right. We need more data.
but it seems promising.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, lavender tea.
Another one with a great scent.
It's so lovely and relaxing.
And that purple color is just so peaceful.
I know, right?
So does the research back up the calming reputation?
Well, some research does suggest that lavender can help you relax and improve sleep quality.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, there was a small study with postpartum women who drank lavender tea, and they said they felt less fatigued.
Interesting.
And another study with older adults showed that lavender tea actually decreased their symptoms of depression and anxiety.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, but Healthline points out that the benefits seen with lavender essential oil might not be the same as with the tea.
Right, different forms.
And of course, more research is needed.
Always more research.
Okay, next up, valerian tea.
Valerian root? I've definitely seen that in sleep supplements.
Yeah, this is pretty common.
So the tea is made from the dried roots of the plant.
Okay.
And they think it works by increasing GABA in the brain.
What's GABA?
It's a neurotransmitter that basically slows things down in your brain.
Okay.
So it helps you relax.
A natural chill pill.
Exactly.
So have there been studies on valerian tea specifically?
Not a ton.
Okay.
There have been studies on valerian root, though, and they found potential benefits for anxiety and sleep quality.
Okay.
But Healthline says we need more research on the tea itself.
So the jury's still out.
Yeah, but some people swear by it.
Okay. Last but not least, passionflower tea.
Passionflower, even the name sounds relaxing.
It really does.
Yeah, it's made from the fresh or dried leaves of the passionflower plant.
Okay.
And a review of several studies suggested that passionflower preparations,
Okay.
like teas, syrups, and tinctures, might act as a natural sedative
Okay.
and help with anxiety.
So kind of like valerian root in a way.
Yeah, potentially.
And was there a study on passionflower tea specifically?
There was an older study that showed it improved subjective sleep quality,
Okay.
but newer research hasn't really backed that up.
So again, more research is needed.
A common theme.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about tea.
Yeah, we have.
Now let's move on to specific herbs for sleep.
Okay, that's good.
And we're going to be looking at info from medical news today for this.
Great.
So they start by highlighting valerian root
Sure.
as the most popular herb for insomnia.
Yeah, it seems to pop up everywhere.
Right. A 2013 review found that it was the most commonly used.
Interesting.
And it's been used for centuries as a sleep aid.
Wow.
It comes in extracts, teas, supplements.
All kinds of forms.
Yeah, and researchers are still trying to figure out exactly how it works.
Really? They don't know.
Not completely. But there was a 2020 review and meta-analysis that looked at valerian root for sleep disorders.
Yeah,
And I think it could be helpful. But they said it's hard to compare different studies because the preparations and doses vary so much.
Oh, that makes sense.
But ultimately, they concluded that valerian root could be a safe and effective alternative.
Awesome.
But some people might experience side effects like nausea or stomach cramps.
Okay, not ideal.
No, but it's good to be aware of.
Definitely.
So next up, chamomile again.
Oh, right.
Medical news today says it's used as a natural remedy for sleeplessness.
Mm-hmm.
But studies haven't really confirmed if it actually works for sleep.
Interesting.
Like people use it, but we don't know for sure.
It was more anecdotal.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But they do mention a 2017 trial that showed improved sleep quality in older adults who took 200 milligrams of chamomile extract twice a day.
Okay, so that's promising.
Yeah. But then there was a 2011 study with a slightly higher dose.
Okay.
270 milligrams twice a day in adults with insomnia, and they found no improvement compared to a placebo.
So mixed results?
Yeah, it seems like sleep is really complex and people respond differently to these things.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And the dose and the specific compounds in the preparation probably matter a lot.
Right.
But they do say that short-term use as tea or in pill form is generally considered safe.
Okay, that's good.
But there can be side effects.
Oh, like what?
Nausea, dizziness, and allergic reactions.
Allergic reaction.
Yeah, especially in people who are allergic to ragweed, chrysanthemums, marigolds, and daisies.
Oh, that's a lot of plants.
Yeah, and they say long-term effects are unclear.
So more research is needed.
Always.
Okay, what about lavender?
Right. So Medical News Today says most of the research on lavender and sleep has focused on siloxane.
Siloxane.
Yeah, it's a specific active substance derived from lavender oil.
Okay.
And a 2015 study showed that people taking siloxane had significant reductions in anxiety and better sleep.
Compared to a placebo.
Yes, compared to a placebo.
That's good.
And a 2019 study suggested that the sleep benefits are mainly due to lavender's anxiety-reducing effects.
Okay, so it's not necessarily making you sleepy.
Right, it's more about calming you down. And that might be why it doesn't usually cause daytime drowsiness.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, and studies show that consuming lavender is safe in the short term.
Yeah.
But we don't know about the long-term safety yet.
So more research?
As always.
What about passionflower?
So Medical News Today says there's not much research on passionflower alone for sleep.
Really?
Yeah, but they do mention a 2013 study that looked at a combination of valerian, passionflower, and hops
Okay.
as a treatment for insomnia. And this herbal combo actually showed improvement in sleep time.
Okay.
The time it took to fall asleep, nighttime awakenings, and the overall severity of insomnia.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and they even compared it to zolpidem, which is a prescription sleep drug.
Wow.
And most of the side effects were mild.
So that's a really interesting finding.
Yeah, it suggests that passionflower might work better when combined with other calming herbs.
This has all been incredibly insightful.
Oh, well, thank you.
You've really unpacked a lot of complex information.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love this stuff.
On a completely unrelated note,
Yeah.
everyone listening to this deep dive on the Detox Health channel,
Yeah.
please hit that like button if you think Chelsea is more than just a pretty face.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about some other natural sleep aids that Medical News Today mentions.
Okay.
Not just herbs, but other things.
All right, sounds good.
So melatonin is one that I see everywhere these days.
And melatonin, yeah, it's a hormone that our brain naturally produces to regulate our sleep-wake cycle.
Okay.
And Medical News Today says it can help you fall asleep faster,
Okay.
feel sleepier, and sleep for longer.
So it can be really helpful.
And people use it for things like jet lag.
Right.
But they do say that it's not regulated.
Yep.
And the long-term effects aren't totally clear.
So there's some unknowns.
Yeah, and some people report side effects like grogginess or even depression.
Really?
Or waking up in the middle of the night.
Oh, no, that defeats the purpose.
Yeah, but they do say it seems safe for short-term use.
Okay.
And lower doses might be enough,
Like how much are we talking?
like 0.1 to 0.3 milligrams.
Okay.
And they say fast-release formulas might work better for falling asleep quickly.
Interesting.
So if you're struggling to fall asleep, that might be the way to go.
Good to know.
They also mention a diphenhydramine.
What kind?
It's an antihistamine that's found in some over-the-counter allergy medications,
Okay.
and it can make you drowsy.
Ah, so that's how it helps with sleep.
Exactly. It can reduce the time it takes to fall asleep.
And is it safe?
They say it's generally used for occasional sleeplessness.
Okay, so not every night.
Right.
Now, they also talk about behavioral strategies.
Yes. Things like relaxation training and cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia.
Okay, so these are non-pharmacological approaches.
Exactly.
So no drugs or supplements involved.
Right. It's more about addressing the root cause of the sleep problems.
That makes sense.
And Medical News Today also says that it's important to know when to see a doctor for insomnia.
Okay, when is that?
Well, if you're constantly unhappy with your sleep,
Okay.
if your sleep quality is affecting your daily life,
Or if the symptoms have been going on for at least 3 months or having 3 or more times a week.
so if it's really impacting your life,
Exactly.
and they say it's crucial to talk to a doctor about sleep problems before taking any drug or herb.
Right, because it could be a sign of an underlying medical condition.
So that's really important to remember.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's move on to our last source.
Okay.
The WebMD page on natural sleep aids and remedies.
Sounds good.
So they start by saying that some of these aids and remedies can make you sleepy.
Right, which is the point.
Exactly. But they also make a really important point about how the FDA regulates dietary supplements.
Okay, what's that?
So, unlike prescription drugs or even over-the-counter drugs, manufacturers don't have to prove that their supplements are safe or effective before selling them.
So you're kind of taking a risk.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to do your own research.
Right, don't just believe what the label says.
Exactly.
So what else does WebMD say?
Well, they talk about melatonin again.
And they basically reiterate what we already discussed
Okay.
about how it regulates our body's internal clock,
Mm-hmm.
its potential to help us fall asleep and sleep longer,
Right.
and how it's used for jet lag.
Yeah.
But they also mention again that it's unregulated and that low doses might be the way to go.
Okay. So that seems to be the consensus.
Yeah, it does.
So what about valerian?
Well, WebMD brings that up too,
Okay.
and they say it's a leading supplement for anxiety and insomnia.
Mm-hmm.
But they also point out that the Natural Medicine's comprehensive database says there's not enough proof that it works for insomnia.
Interesting.
Yeah, but there have been some limited findings that show it can help people fall asleep faster and get better sleep quality.
Okay.
And it doesn't usually make people groggy in the morning.
That's good.
But some studies have shown it's no better than a placebo.
Wow. So really mixed results.
Yeah, and they say that longer-term use might be more effective for people with chronic sleep problems. And it's usually well-tolerated in the short term, but there can be side effects like headaches or feeling hungover.
Ugh, not good.
No. And they say it might also impair your thinking.
Oh, wow.
So, be careful with that.
And don't mix it with alcohol or other sedatives.
Right. Good point.
And they say there's no reported addiction, but some people actually find it stimulating.
That's so weird.
It is. It seems like the effects can vary a lot from person to person.
So what about chamomile?
WebMD talks about that too.
Okay.
They say it's really popular,
It is.
and it has anti-inflammatory and antibacterial properties.
Interesting.
Yeah, they recommend German chamomile as a tea and Roman chamomile as a tincture.
Okay.
And they say both might have a calming effect, but again, the Natural Medicine's comprehensive database says there's not enough proof for insomnia.
So again, more research is needed.
Exactly.
What other herbs do they mention?
Well, they briefly talk about kava.
Kava.
Yeah, it used to be used for stress anxiety and insomnia. And some people said it helped them relax without affecting their memory or motor function.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, but it's actually considered unsafe now
Why?
because there have been reports of liver toxicity.
Oh, wow. That's serious.
Yeah, so definitely avoid kava.
Got it.
They also talk about tryptophan.
Tryptophan.
Yeah, it's an amino acid that's a precursor to serotonin.
Serotonin.
Yeah, it's a neurotransmitter that plays a role in sleep.
Okay.
And early studies suggested that serotonin might be involved in sleep.
Okay.
And later animal studies supported this.
Interesting.
And tryptophan is found in milk,
Right.
which is why people used to think warm milk before bed helped you sleep.
Interesting.
And tryptophan became a popular natural insomnia remedy.
Okay.
But then it was linked to eosinophilia myalgia syndrome.
Eosinophilia myalgia syndrome.
Yeah, it's a serious condition.
Oh, wow.
So tryptophan is no longer available as a supplement.
Okay.
But you can still get it from foods like turkey, cheese nuts, beans, eggs, milk.
So you can get it naturally?
Yeah, and they say that eating carbohydrates can also boost serotonin levels.
Okay, so carbs before bed might actually help.
Maybe.
That's true.
What about 5-HTP? Have you heard of that?
5-HTP. Yeah, I've seen it marketed as a sleep aid.
So it's a derivative of tryptophan,
Okay.
and it also boosts serotonin, and it's a precursor to melatonin.
So it's like a multitasker.
Yeah, and there's some evidence that it might help with depression and anxiety,
Okay.
but not enough evidence to say for sure if it works for insomnia.
So the results are mixed.
Yeah.
And what about passionflower and hops?
WebMD mentions those briefly too.
Okay.
They say passionflower is a natural sleep remedy and sedative.
Okay.
And there's some indication that it might work in a similar way to benzodiazepines.
Benzodiazepines.
Yeah, those are prescription drugs that are used for anxiety and insomnia.
Okay.
And hops is another herb that might help you sleep.
Yeah.
But the evidence is inconclusive.
So more research is needed.
Always more research.
And what about the overall safety of these natural remedies?
Right. So WebMD reminds us that natural remedies can have side effects and risks.
Right. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's safe.
Exactly.
And they don't have to go through the same FDA approval process as drugs.
Right. So the dosing can vary, and you might not be getting exactly what the label says.
So it's kind of buyer beware.
Yeah. They really stress the importance of understanding what you're taking and talking to your doctor.
Okay, so let's wrap things up.
All right.
What are the key takeaways from all of this info?
Okay, so across all the sources, we see that certain teas like magnolia, low-caffeine green, Chamomile, lavender, valerian, and passionflower have been used traditionally to help people sleep.
Okay.
And some research suggests they might help with relaxation and sleep quality.
Okay.
But the evidence is pretty weak and inconsistent.
So we need more research.
Definitely, especially on the teas themselves.
Right.
What about the herbs?
Yeah, what about valerian root and chamomile and lavender?
So they're popular choices, but the scientific support for them is mixed. Valerian root seems to have the most research behind it for insomnia,
Okay.
but even that has some limitations.
Right.
And passionflower, often combined with other herbs, seems promising.
Okay.
And then there are the other natural options like melatonin,
Right.
which can be helpful for falling asleep and dealing with jet lag.
Okay.
But we need more research on its long-term safety.
Right.
And it's important to remember that kava is now considered unsafe because of liver toxicity.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to mess with that.
And tryptophan is no longer available as a supplement because of safety concerns.
Right.
And the big safety message throughout all of this is to be careful because the FDA regulates supplements differently than drugs.
Right.
So always talk to your doctor before starting any new supplement.
Especially if you're pregnant, breastfeeding, or taking other medication.
Exactly.
And these natural options can be helpful, but they're not a cure-all. What?
Good sleep hygiene is still the most important thing.
Right, so things like having a regular sleep schedule, limiting screen time before bed, creating a relaxing sleep environment.
Exactly. Those are all key.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought for you guys listening.
Okay, I'm listening.
We've seen that the evidence for these natural sleep aids is kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And people seem to respond to them differently.
Yeah, some people swear by certain things and other people don't notice a difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what does this tell us about our relationship with sleep and the search for solutions?
That's a great question.
Is it more about finding what works for you individually
Right.
and developing good sleep habits
Yeah.
than it is about finding one magic cure?
I think that's a really insightful point.
Something to think about.
It is.
And for more deep dives into health and wellness topics, make sure you subscribe to the Detox Health YouTube channel.
Yeah, come join us over there.
Thanks for diving deep with us, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.